Welcome to Before the Echo,
A 12-pointer in Kansas. Can you believe it?
the podcast about what happens before the shot,
Man, look
before
at
the
that.
arrow's released, and before the story gets told.
Can you believe that?
I'm your host, Josh Talker. This show is built for the whitetail woods, breaking down proven tactics, real stories from the tree, and gear setups that help you be more successful on stand. Let's get into it.
Man.
No, we only went 50 yards. Look at him, guys. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We have, I'm not going to do an ad read for ASIO Gear today because we got the founder of ASIO Gear coming on, so he can do that for you. But before we get started, I want to take some time to tell you about some of the things my partners have going on. The first one is Latitude Outdoors. If you guys need any mobile hunting gear, now's a good time to get it, way before season starts. Need new saddle, platform, coming out with some new sticks and some new packs. So make sure you guys go over to Latitude Outdoors and check out what they got going on, as well as Razor broadheads. If you need any double bevel broadheads or single bevel broadheads, Razor has you covered. Everything from 125 grain up to 300 grain for shooting a trad bow. It's a great option if you want a heavier point weight on your compound setup. They also have what you need there. So go over to razorbroadheads.com and check them out. And then if you need some new glass, whether it be a new rifle scope or new binos, red dot for your turkey gun, that's coming up real soon here. Make sure you guys go over to Hawke Optics and give those guys a chance. They have some great optics for the money and a pretty much price point for any entry level all the way up to high quality glass. So go over to hawkeoptics.com. They've got dealers all over the country. So just look at your local bow shop or gun shop, and you'll be able to find something from Hawke there. Everybody that supports me is in the description below with some discount codes. So make sure you go over there and check that out. All right, let's get Joe Miles on here. How's it going, man?
It is going good, Josh. Anytime I get any chance I get to spend some time with you, buddy, it is time well spent.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Right back at you.
Sure.
We got the chit chatting before we got on here for, 20 minutes or so, but how's things going with you?
Man, going good. We trade show season's in full swing.
Yep.
We did ATA. We got to spend a little time with you out there. And this weekend we're headed to actually a traditional show in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And Shane, one of our trade show managers, left out of here. He's a Southern boy, and he was Googling and YouTubing how to drive in snow. So he made it to Ohio last night, and I actually just got a text from him a little while ago, and he had made it all the way to the event or where the event is. And then I'm going to fly up Saturday or Friday night, and I'll be with him all day Saturday and Sunday there. But so funny, Josh. I texted him this morning. He said, I'm a popsicle. It's -2. He stopped somewhere in Ohio or Indiana or somewhere. And he said, I'm a popsicle. And I said, well, how's the van? And he said, I have gotten it up to acceptable temperature and ready to go. So he's definitely been watching YouTube videos.
It is a bad week to be in the Midwest. It is cold here right now. As cold as it's been, like as far as a stretch of time, it's, it gets cold every now and again, but it's been cold for a handful of days now. And we got 14 inches of snow at my house the other night.
Jeez.
I know it. I live in Southern Indiana. We don't really get that very often. Like it's happened a couple times in my life, but when we do, it's the bad part about this snow is it's not going to go away. Usually it gets up to 50 or something and melts right away, but not this week.
Well, that can't be good for the deer
or turkeys or anything.
Yeah. Right.
I was thinking about that. I mean, could you imagine being a turkey when there's 14 inches of snow? I mean,
that's up to his beard. I mean, how does he scratch down to get him anything?
I don't know. I thought about, I got a couple pieces of private around here I hunt. I thought about going and like digging out a spot and feeding the deer for a little bit or something, but you're probably kind of peeing in the ocean, but it's nasty out right now. We probably think it's horrible, but I'm sure it's they're used to it or they can weather
Figuring
it.
it out. Figuring it out. Yeah.
They say those, from what I've researched, is like usually the deer, the temperatures don't really bother them. It's whenever there's lack of food is when they start to, you know, suffer, I guess.
I talk to those guys up in Alberta and stuff when they get weeks of that on end, and it's something about they'll back up to a windrow and their body almost goes. And I'll have this wrong, but almost goes into like hibernation, and they can sit there for days on end and be okay. I don't know what it is, but those big hardy northern bucks,
yeah,
man, and they do get a winter kill, right? A lot of them will die.
Yeah, but I think generally that's from starvation, they say, or just lack of energy.
Yep.
It's not usually the weather, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want to live in it right now. That's for sure.
No, Natalie, my wife's got 2 little French bulldogs, and it's been unseasonably cool here too. And I had to go last night outside and do some stuff in the backyard. And our bigger one's name is Dale, and his brother's name was Brennan. We named them Brennan and Dale after the stepbrothers from that movie. And Dale was out there with me, and he's kind of he wanted to go, so we go out there, and he's following me around for a little bit, and it's windy and it is cold. I mean, it's probably 22, 25 degrees, which is cold for South Carolina. And after about 4 minutes of that, he was gone. I looked up and he was standing by the back door, pawing at it for Natalie to let him back inside. I was like, there's no way you derive from wolves. No chance,
exactly.
buddy.
Oh man, my parents have English bulldogs. And they're funny creatures, man. Them dogs are.
They are.
Yeah.
God, they're funny. They got great personalities.
Yeah. How's things with ASIO in 2025?
Man, we had our best year ever. We blew our goal out of the water, and just so thankful and appreciative, with how it's been received by the market, and just continuing to grow and getting the awareness out there. And the thing that I don't know that humble is the right word, but I've already said appreciative, but the success stories we get, it just seems like email after email after Instagram DM after Instagram DM, Facebook Messenger, just guys sending in success. We're an ASIO, whether it be it kept me hidden, I shot him at 4 yards, or man, I was able to sit in the stand all day and 15-degree temperatures. And so all the hard work, it's good. We hear, maybe a zipper broke, or you'll have, this, that, and everything is obviously warranted, but man, it's so awesome to hear that the success stories, the guys are loving it and really enjoying it. It's helping them in their hunting.
Yeah. What, did you, whenever you started ASIO, like, did you ever imagine you guys would get to this point? Like, I guess, what was if you got any thoughts on that, Joe? Like, because man, whenever I see ASIO everywhere now, like I was at a Mexican restaurant the other day in town here, and there's a guy wearing an ASIO hat. He looked like a Don Higgins guy. I'll be honest with you. He didn't mention my name or see me, or it didn't point me out. But
that's funny. Yeah. So my goal, we did a local trade show the first year here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I had friends and family come by wearing ASIO hats and ASIO vests. And I told a couple of the guys that were sitting there with me, I was like, my goal is to go somewhere in public or go to a trade show, and just a random guy walk by that I do not know wearing a piece of ASIO. And I will say that's going to make me, excited that the brand is actually finally doing something. And so that was like a real goal. And man, again, it's been a heck of a lot of hard work, and for it to finally start growing and doing what we want it to do is pretty overwhelming and very much appreciated.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a great job. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about you guys as a company, and I think that's what I feel like you guys have done different than everybody else is not that you guys are small or anything like that, but it's like you still have that feeling of, hey, I know these people that work here, and I know they're going to take care of me. Whereas a lot of the other brands you buy, you're just like, they'll probably never hear from them again, kind of thing.
We're all bow hunters, right? I mean, that is absolutely my passion, and I'm hands in the business every single day from from the from the product development to the customer service to the marketing, all of it. I mean, if I had my wishes, I'd be in the swamp hunting every day and maybe have a camera with me for content. But there's a heck of a lot more that goes into it. And I try to go to every trade show that I possibly can to meet guys and talk gear, but talk hunting. I'm always trying to get better as a hunter myself. So talking to guys like you and Dan and Don and all the guys, and just trying to be a sponge and pick up as much information, because that's my world, my family, my faith in whitetail deer hunting. I mean, that's what I love to do.
Yeah. Well, it really shows through. You guys just got your patent too, didn't you?
We did. We got it. We were at ATA when we got it.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a girl that works with us had been working on it, and I out of the blue emailed her and just said, "Hey, any update on that patent?" And she goes, "We were supposed to hear back. Let me email them." And I thought, okay, I'll hear from her in a couple of weeks. And she emailed me back the next day and said, "Woohoo, we got the patent," and sent me the certificate. And yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yep. And that's for your guys' collar.
Yeah, for our anchor point collar, so you don't have any interference with your string, and so of course I get it, and I, like so many other guys' wives, I'm sure yours is the same. They make fun of us for about 90% of what we do.
Yeah.
So I went home and I said, "Honey, I just want to let you know that I am an inventor. I am officially an inventor." And she rolled her eyes so hard, I thought they were going to fall out of her head.
Oh yeah, they definitely have a way of humbling you pretty quickly.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think we already touched on Step Brothers. Now I'm going to touch on Ron Burgundy. He comes out there and says I'm a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
so
right.
I was giving her that whole big spiel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They are very good at pointing out if you aren't deserving of your arrogance sometimes. So
no, for sure. Yeah.
But I guess we probably need that, most of us at least.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So what I was wanting to, there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk to you about. Don't let me forget to bring up traditional archery either, because I know you just said you're going to Kalamazoo. That's traditional archery mecca right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was curious what you thought of two things. Let's start with this one.
Okay.
I don't know very many people that hunt like around the world like you do, Joe. You've been quite a few places hunting. Most of my inner circles, they hunt in the Midwest. Maybe they go out west every now and again and hunt. And someone asked me, I was on a podcast. I was on Jake Hofer's podcast, the Whitetail Podcast, a couple weeks ago, and he asked me about like what is the state of hunting and he was talking about whitetail hunting, in the Midwest. And, I kind of gave him some answer and I was just curious, like you're a guy that has went all around the world and hunted and like saw different cultures and what hunting is to them. Like, what is your take on hunting in the United States right now? Like compared to other places, I guess, or how good or bad it could be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up hunting. Whitetail was everything to me, and as I got further along in life, I did start doing some international stuff. I went to Africa and I guided over there for 7 years when I was much younger, and I gotta say, when you have that good group of hunting buddies, there's a camaraderie and there's a passion, and it's different levels of it. Some guys that just want to go to camp and have fun, and they may go hunt in an afternoon, may not. And there's guys that get together and they're really serious about it. And then, everybody in between. And, I tried to set myself up with groups of people that were really serious about it. And when, I'll just use Tanzania or the country of Turkey, two places that I've hunted. When you go to those things and it's a serious type hunt, it is the same type mentality of like a really serious hardcore whitetail hunter. Attention to detail, not taking shortcuts, not forcing something like a wind direction when you're hunting buffalo. They'll completely abort the mission, or they'll just sit down and wait 45 minutes for the wind to change, and just not taking chances and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done. I'm not necessarily that, if that was the question you were asking, but I'm going to circle back and say, I think the state of hunting in the U.S. in certain demographics and certain groups is just as serious and important and quote unquote hardcore as anywhere else in the world. I think the one thing that may be happening to hunting in the U.S. is I'm seeing a lot of the youth, and I'm as guilty as anybody. I have a 22-year-old son who I think just got kind of the tail end of it because he is pretty hardcore and loves it. But it's become instant gratification almost in whitetail hunting, where when I grew up, I mean, I did kill a deer fairly early, but it took a tremendous amount of work here in South Carolina to kill a decent buck. I started hunting with my dad in diapers, and I was well up 13, 14 years old before I ever shot a decent buck. And guys are going to say, well, that's insanely young. But I was hunting on my own when I was like 11. My dad, he raised me probably different, and basically I had a little sawed-off 243 and went out and did my own thing at a very young age. But I see it. I have a lot of buddies, and we, from Columbia, South Carolina, we have a huge hunting culture here. But the instant gratification of getting our kids a deer, on their first sit or second sit, and only sitting for 2 hours, and not having to put in all the effort, and I think it's causing a lot of kids to, okay, been there, done that, I'm moving on, right? Versus getting that fire to where they actually work really hard for something, and then they're successful at it, and it builds kind of that fire and that passion to continue doing it.
Yeah,
that's my I guess 30,000 foot view of where hunting is.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of like having more government regulations by any means. Don't take what I'm getting ready to say as that. But I used to always be like, hate the fact, like the thought of age restrictions on hunting. A lot of states it's 12 years old or 13 years old or whatever. And now the more I think about it, like these kids that are younger than that, I mean, I know guys that gotten their kids that are 4 years old turkeys. Shooting them with a 410 or whatever, and then 6, 7-year-olds are shooting nice bucks, out of box blinds or whatever. And, it's like, I don't know. I don't really get as I get older, and have boys myself, I'm like, I don't really get who you're really doing that for, like, because for them, it's almost doing them a huge disservice, because for one, I don't think the size of the animal matters to a 5 or 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, necessarily. I think they just kind of want to go out in the woods and do their thing. And then whenever they're that young, they have all these, you have to help them then. Like they can't do it on them. They can't do it by themselves. So you are doing everything for them, from putting a dang rifle with a silencer on what are them clamps?
Tripods.
Yeah. You're doing that for them. You're sitting in a box blind 90% of the time, probably, or more. They're playing on an iPad, and then they shoot this deer, right? And
that you've got a cell camera on that is coming in there.
Yeah.
So you get in there 30 minutes before he shows up, and bam,
right.
He shows up. Yeah. Instant gratification.
Yeah, and so then they get that for a couple years. And then they become a teenager, and they're just like, they lose interest in it because I've done this. But if you don't take them until they're a teenager, at that point, they're independent to this point where they don't want your help. You get that shift where a kid wants you to do everything for them if they had the choice, but then once they hit a certain age, it's like, I want to do this on my own. I don't want dad's help anymore. And so like, there's part of me, it's like, man, it kind of, that age thing kind of almost makes sense a little bit to me, for the betterment of hunting. Now, do I think that there should be an age regulation? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but it used to always just be, I used to think it was silly to have an age restriction on hunting, but the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of like, well, maybe there's some side benefits to that,
Yeah, I mean, I remember, our big thing was Friday after school. We'd go down to the hunting club, and we had a camper down there, and the whole family would stay in the camper, and we would go out, and if somebody got a good buck, we shared it with our friends and family, and we butchered it, and we, had the meat in the freezer, and we ate that, we ate that deer, and that was, and I just could not wait till Friday got here to go back to hunt camp, and
Yeah.
maybe it was going to be my turn to get a nice buck, and now it's almost like the buck shot, it goes on Instagram and it's out of sight, out of mind. It goes to a processor or whatever it may be, and of course that's not everybody.
Right.
We my wife loves venison, so we eat it all the time. I had it last night in chili, so it's still a big part of our life. But I do see that quite a bit, and I think the kids, time will tell. But I feel like we are doing a little bit of a disservice to the youth with that instant gratification. But it's with everything, right? I mean, it's not just with hunting.
Yeah, it is. It's with everything. You're right. I actually heard, well, I keep bringing up Jake Halfer from the Whitetail podcast. I just happened to hear this on his podcast too, but he had Lee Lukoski on his podcast, and Lee was over like really super concerned about this issue with his kids, because like obviously his kids could shoot a booner every year if he wanted them to, and he's like they're not allowed to shoot a gun on my property. They got to shoot it with a bow, a crossbow. And he's like, and it's not going to be a booner. It's going to be it's probably going to be a 5-year-old junk deer to him, that they need shot. And he's like, I just don't want him shooting booners yet. And I was like, oh, it kind of surprised me he said that, but I was like, that's probably how you need to work it,
Absolutely right. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, but then at the same time, like we like to talk about, we as like the hunting community, like all the bad things going on right now, whether it be, the technology conversation that gets brought up a lot, drones, cell cameras, this and that. And then you got the anti-social media group, all this negative stuff around hunting. Some of it's deserved. I'll be the first to admit that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know any time in history where we've had like the means and the extra time to hunt as much as we do as a culture now. As far as my age, and older, I think the young kids, like you said, there's probably a problem there. But like at least whenever I was growing up and the people around me, I didn't, like my dad and my uncles, my grandpa, they didn't go hunting out of state very often or at all. And it just seems like now people have the time and the money to do some more fun things than they used to. Maybe I'm wrong there, or they have more. Someone asked me in a comment session the other day, it's like, what do you think that price per inch of antlers killed in 2025 was compared to like 1990?
I'd hate to know.
Oh, I bet it's an astronomical amount more that we spend on hunting now than we used to,
Yeah, I agree with that. I would piggyback on a positive note. I think the learning curve, for guys that want to get into hunting, the learning curve is so much faster because there is so much good information out there, and there's also a lot of bad information, but there's so much good information out there that a guy can really speed up his learning process. I mean, there's a local guy here that had never hunted and was a friend of my son's, and he got into it, and just watching his progression and all of a sudden being pretty darn proficient at going out, reading sign, picking out certain trees to hunt and that sort of thing, wind direction, access, entry and exit. I mean, he really picked up on a lot of stuff and got where he was killing deer. And I was like, man, without a dad or a granddad or an uncle or something to show you a lot of that. So that is a positive too.
Yeah, I think it is. Some people don't. Some people think it's, a negative. It's that's the hard part. But no, I was saying that's what's positive about right now is like, if you're into deer hunting, you got a lot of options right now to learn, to buy gear, to, most people have enough disposable income now where you can go out of state and try different different area or different terrain. So, yeah, I think it's, as much as we hate to admit it, and we like to point out all the issues we have in hunting, is like, it's probably the golden era right now of buck hunting, or, killing deer.
I saw something the other day that 40 something percent of all deer killed in North America this year were 3.5 or older. And it was like the first
Wow.
time in history. It's one of the biologists, and I don't know where I saw it, just scrolling on Instagram somewhere, and that was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
So there are more and more mature deer, getting killed. I mean, that also means 50 some odd percent were under 3-year-old, but still, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. No, that's higher than I would have guessed, I guess. But it kind of makes sense with the times, what people are after now, or what's important to people now. So, but there is always there's always stuff as a culture we could do better. That's sure enough, as the sun will rise. But and then obviously we have one factor that you can't really compare to other generations, was the social media thing. That's something that everybody else didn't really have to deal with.
That's a wild place, buddy.
Yeah.
God, social media is a wild place. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, you got to have thick skin and just feel for some people with the comments that they put on social media. Good.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird mentality some folks have on there that I don't completely understand or know where it comes from, but people have a lot of confidence on there, it seems like sometimes.
Yes, indeed. Who was it? Mike Tyson or somebody that said, savages are much more respectful than the social media crowd, because if you said something like that to a savage, he'd split your head wide open.
Yeah.
And on social media, it's something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, that guy's kind of oddly wise sometimes. He says some stuff
oddly wise.
You wouldn't think he would come out of his mouth, but it's like, oh,
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk to you about hunting gear for a little bit too, if that's all right.
Okay. Yeah.
You're
100%.
You're right in the middle of that industry, right? What do you think about where we're at with hunting gear right now, and like, where do you see things going in the next 5 years with products?
Well, I mean, I see the pendulum swinging a lot back towards the traditional game. That wasn't even 5 years ago. That wasn't even on my radar. It was compound, 40 yards and in, shooting them even sometimes further than that, and maximizing my range with my compound, and running as many trail cameras as I humanly could, doing everything possible, multiple cameras in different states. And I heard you say this the other day, is that you had kind of backed away from cameras, and you miss that, the camaraderie of talking to your buddies, of getting the pictures. And I miss that too, man. I would absolutely miss that, because I like to share my pictures with my buddies, and I like to have cameras like that my son and I can look at and talk about and strategize on. Am I really using the cameras to kill the deer? I don't know that we necessarily do that, but we like to know what deer's around, and we like to know that maybe he's still alive, and so I think that is a camaraderie thing. But the question being, I think it is starting to trend back towards a more of a traditional approach. You see more and more people aborting the trail cameras. You see more and more guys, trying to get away from bait and feed. You see a lot more guys that are really down on all this drone stuff, and guys make their own mind up about that. But it just seems like, to me, there's starting to be a push to move hunting back to making it more and more challenging again. A lot of guys using long bows, a lot of guys using recurve bows. And I would love to know that math. I mean, I look at Steve Jewett, he got that new bow for ASIO, and it's amazing. And I think he's on a 18-month waiting list, and I bet you 3 or 4 years ago, you could get a bow from him in a month or a month and a half, and I think that's for a lot of bow companies. I'll see the Black Widow guys this weekend, but I'd love to know how their business has changed in the last 10 years, and I bet you dollars to donuts they've grown 30-40%. I just have to believe that, because it seems like there is a need, a want, and a push to push things back to more of a challenging time, because, and not to get real philosophical, but we don't have to hunt for food, right? We do it. I like the food. I love eating fresh venison. I think it's incredible for humans to eat that versus a processed cow. But we don't have to hunt for food. So a lot of the reason we do it is for the challenge of it, and to really be a part of the circle of life. And I think when we go so far as humans, and technology goes so far that it's not as challenging as maybe it could be, or as it was. It's a means to an end, and we want to get back to really making it challenging. So that would be my philosophy on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I've kind of dabbled in traditional archery for a long time now, and I have had. I mean, I sold a bow, like used to. You would try to sell a trad bow online. It kind of was like, okay, it's going to be set here for a month, before someone buys it. And I put it up, and I had it sold within like 5 minutes. Someone bought it from me. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together until thinking about that now. But yeah, it would be interesting to see that. I do see that too. I see a lot of people. Of course, people reach out to me about traditional stuff pretty often, and I get a lot of questions about it the last year, I guess.
Yeah, I think the thing about traditional archery, and I'm a newbie. I'll be the first to admit that I'm new to the trad world, like maybe 3 years into that journey, and I have gone back and forth on it because it is so difficult. Yeah. But to me, there's a lot of guys that don't like the money aspect in hunting. Right. They don't like you to be able to buy it. You can go down to Texas and I hunt Texas. I love hunting the brush country of Texas, but you can basically go down there and buy a deer. Mm-hmm. If the guys talk about buying 5,000 acres in Missouri or Kansas, and man, your money's what's giving you that opportunity to kill those Boone and Crockett deer. Totally get it. And understand that negative impulse from some people, and that's where the traditional bow, to me, I don't think it matters if you've got $100 million or $100. It's the ultimate equalizer, because if you don't put the work into that traditional bow, you are not going to be successful. I mean, you could get lucky. But man, if you don't put the effort in and the work in, you can buy the best traditional bow on planet Earth, a $20,000 traditional bow, if there's such a thing. I have no idea. But if you don't work that thing, you are not going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I hope, this boom, because there was a boom with traditional archery like back in 2013, 14, something like that. For whatever reason, I don't know what the reason was, but it just got real popular for a couple of years, and then it goes away. And I think that is because a lot of guys buy them for a year and they're like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
I mean, because the first year you take it out, sometimes you're just like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even think this is possible for me at the moment. It's just a reality of it. I had a buddy that he was getting a little arrogant, I think, with himself, but he's like, dude, he goes, you guys all talking about this traditional stuff all the time. It ain't that. He's like, I don't think it's that hard. And I'm like, okay, whatever you think, whatever you want. He's like, I'm going to go buy one and I'm going to shoot a deer with one this year. I'm like, oh, great. And then we went to a shop and he pulled the first one back. And first of all, he's like, what weight, and I'm like, maybe 40 pounds, your first one, 45 pounds. He's like, I think I can go, 55, 60, and I'm like, no, I don't shoot that,
Right.
And then, he pulled it back and he got it to about right there, and then he went to the 40-pound one. And then,
Yeah.
he ended up not buying one. He's like, "Oh, I get it. Sorry, I didn't know this is."
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. I mean, I
Yeah.
was in Texas and I took mine to Texas. That's where I had been hunting with mine. I hunted here some too, and I missed a buck here on a scrape. It read the script. It wasn't a great buck, but it was a South Carolina buck, and I missed him, shot over his back. But I shoot a lot here at our office. We got a little range in the back, and I'm able to get out during lunch or before work and shoot a lot, and it had gotten darn proficient. Like I was almost ready to challenge old man Bobby Worthington. He got wind of that, and he actually called me. He said, "There's a rumor flying around that you want to challenge me to some shooting." I said, "Bobby, if ever there was a time, it is now." And he said, "Well, you just come on to Pikeville and we'll give it a try."
Does Bobby still shoot a lot with his trad bow?
Yeah, oh yeah, and he's so good. He's so good. He's got some eye problems right now, so he's had to lay off of it. But the last time I shot with him, there was a guy in the archery shop, and it was a 20-yard range, and he was silver dollar. I won't say a quarter, but he was putting 5 arrows in a silver dollar at 20 yards, and the guy with the compound was maybe putting 3 arrows in the silver dollar at 20 yards. So he was out shooting the compound guy with it. He's amazing with the recurve. But back to my story. So I took it to Mexico last year, and I shot a buck decently. He went about 300 yards. I found him. I missed one, and then I shot one in the brisket and had to finish him off with a rifle before he got out of sight. There was a rifle in the blind with us. So that was my first. I was like, I'm not letting him get away. Give me that rifle. And so I finished him off. But this year I took it to Texas, wanting to kind of repeat the process, and I only had one opportunity, and it was at 20 yards, and I'd hunted, a lot. And so I was anxious, and I had, I had buck fever, and it wasn't a giant buck. It was a nice South Texas buck. And, I literally got buck fever, and I don't get that really much now with the compound, until after the shot. I still get that big adrenaline dump and all that after the shot, but before the shot with the compound, I've got my wits completely, I'm going to kill you. If you make that one step, you're getting shot. And with the recurve, I'm like, all right, he's coming in. Oh my God, he's going to stop it inside 20 yards, and he's going to be broadside. And boy, and I'm like, as I'm getting drawn, I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to get drawn on this thing. Yeah. And I get drawn and I shoot. And, most of my thought process and shot sequence went completely out the window. Yeah. Instead of picking a little spot, I'm shooting at the deer. I'm sure I plucked a little bit instead of doing a really good follow through. And I shot high, and he jumped the string a little bit. And, I shot over his back, 3 or 4 inches, and he ran off, and I hung the bow up, and I was like, that's what it's all about. And I didn't even kill the dang thing, but I was fired up about that opportunity. And next year that's I say it every year, but I think that's all I'm going to do is shoot that new Steve Jewett tactical curve super curve bow that he's got. I love it, absolutely love it.
It's awesome. Well, people, because I hunt with them every year, but I also hunt my compound some too, or more probably than my traditional bow. And I have people comment on my videos like, why don't you just use your trad bow all the time? Like, because it's freaking hard, man. Like it's hard. And like when I go out of state, I've taken it in the past. I've taken it on plenty of out of state hunts, but one day, especially when I don't have, when the kids are grown, I'll definitely probably just be shoot traditional gear. But it's tough you got to make time, like you said, every day almost to shoot. But to be honest with you, not that I don't want to take it away from, I respect all kinds of hunters, but some of the guys I respect the most in the hunting world are trad bow guys, that just do it that way.
Yeah, it's so, and like I talked to Brian Kessler from Montana. I don't know if you know him, but he was in that. You do know him?
I've heard the name. Yep.
Yeah. So he's a savage with it, and he said he said I'm not 10 out of 10 on whitetail, but I'm darn sure 9.5 out of 10 on whitetail. He said I basically, if he's in my range, I'm going to kill him, and I'm just like, good gosh, dude, that is. and he's not an arrogant guy. I mean, he's just telling facts.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, I got such a long way to go. But, he said, Joe, I've never shot anything else. He said, 3 years old, my dad was a trad guy, and that's all I've done my whole life. I don't know hunting without it. He shot big grizzly bear with it in Alaska, and caribou, and lots of mule deer and lots of whitetail. And man, I want to get to that level with a trad bow.
Oh yeah. Well, I got a friend that I made. He lives in the county east of me here in Indiana, and I think I've told you about him before, but he's killed like out of the 50 states, he's killed something with a trad bow in 47 of them. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And I've asked him this several times, I guess, is like, what? Because he's probably in his mid 50s. And I'm like, why didn't you switch over? Like, why didn't you go from, like, why didn't you ever go to the compound? He's like, I had one for like a year, and he's like, I shot something with it and it just wasn't the same. And I just didn't have I just went back to it and haven't switched, since. And he's real big on it. He's a carpenter, and, he's like, everybody wants to make everything easier, and that's not what it's about for me. And, he just never did switch, and he's killed, like I said, killed all kinds of species and everything else with it.
Now is he the guy that when the guys were using the tip of the arrow to aim with?
Oh yeah, I can tell that story on here. I don't know if I've ever told it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I got invited to the Push. I don't know if you guys, if you aren't familiar with them, they are a traditional archery like YouTube channel. They got classes on how to shoot. They're very into tournament shooting, like spot shooting. I don't know all the terms for it, but tournament shooting. And the tournament shooting for the long bows and the recurves are very real lightweight bows. They have an aiming method they do, but Joe knows all this. But if you're listening at home, they aim with their arrow or with whatever. They have a way of aiming. And my buddy Alan, I'm like, can I bring Alan with me? And like, yeah, bring him over. So we went to Ohio, and they had this turkey hunt there, and it was all the Push guys and a bunch of these I don't know if you call them professional 3D or spot shooters for traditional gear. And he was like sitting in a launcher. He never shot the first arrow with any of them. And he like had his legs crossed. I'll never forget. He had his legs crossed like this, just watching them all. And I was sitting down next to him. I shot a few times because Tom Klum was there giving people lessons. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go and, let's take advantage of this opportunity. And I was like, what do you think, Alan? I sat next to him. He's like, they might as well just go shoot a compound bow. And I'm like, he's like, it's just not, they're just aiming and stuff. He's like, it's just not what it is. It's not for me. I'm like, oh, that's fine. We'll go turkey hunting. It's pretty funny though. Like there's that guy too. Like there's levels to this game, And
right. Yeah. That Brian guy I was talking about earlier, I talked to him about, hey, do you do a fixed crawl, or do you crawl, or do you have a knock underneath, where you are, where you anchor at a certain point and use the tip to aim at different. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't do any of that. And I was like, sorry. And he goes, no, I want my arrow as short as I possibly can so I can't see anything in my sight window, and I drill a hole through where I want to shoot. And if it's inside 20 yards, it's dead. And I'm like, okay, got it, buddy. Yeah. Because I've tried it all, and I've developed some weird system. I think they call it split vision or something. Yeah. And I do have like a crawl. But it's because that Bushman's so fast, man. Yeah. I've got like a 650 grain arrow and 275 almost, or maybe even 300 up front, and it's a heavy arrow. But I don't know. It's just something about the way I shoot. If I anchor or if I have my fingers right under the arrow, I'm just high on everything. I'm shooting over stuff, and so if I drop my fingers down a little bit, it lowered the impact or whatever for me. So I kind of can see the tip of the arrow under the target, but I'm not super aimy with it, I guess. So I don't know, some kind of hybrid weird thing, and somebody will fix me.
It's hard to explain to people how you shoot a trad bow unless you're doing some kind of a fixed crawl or whatever. But I'm the same way. People always ask me, how do I shoot? I'm probably more like your buddy. Like I don't know. I just pull it back and anchor it, and I look and hope my mind takes over, I guess. And some people think that's bad,
Oh, Bobby would think that would be horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby would argue, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he would say there's no such thing as instinctive shooting.
Yeah.
He would say everybody uses something to aim with. Like it was something about they tested this, and they took guys that said they were instinctive and put like a laser in a dark room and said, okay, shoot at that laser, and their arrows were all over the place. Like if it was instinctive, it was just pull back, look at the laser and shoot, you'd be close.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know if your equilibrium would be the same in a dark room as it would be out of the light. But anyway, that's what he says.
Yeah. And there's probably some truth to that, I mean, I'm pretty aware of where my point on is. I always figure that out I probably do some kind of form of gap shooting that I don't, but I try not to have to think about it. It's more of a picture, I guess. Like I know what it's supposed to look like at certain distances. So
that's what's for me. Yep. That makes sense.
But I don't think like, okay, I need my point 8 inches below when I'm trying to, I don't think about that, or some people do. Some people think, okay, let's go. I'm 22 yards. I need to be 12 inches below the target or whatever it would be. But yeah, Alan was, his point was, he's like, we're shooting trad bows here. Like, why do we have to try to make it easier? Like, it's not supposed to be easy, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't think that what they're doing is easy still, but to him, that's his definition of traditional archery.
And they're not traditional,
well, and they're not, they're shooting targets for trophies and money. So it's like, they're going to do whatever they can. But it's just funny. He had no desire to even participate in it.
Nope, not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and then, they're shooting targets past 20 yards too. And it's just not, I can't do it. So not that he can't, but it's just not his thing, Yeah. He wants them closer than that. So, but yeah, that's interesting with gear. And you are kind of right. There is this yin and yang. Like right now we got the drones and the trail cameras are getting cheap and everybody has the cell cameras. And then on the other side, there's this just massive difference in what people want. And yeah, you got to figure out what's right for you.
That's a very good point. I have been very fortunate and have befriended some guys that were with SEAL Team 6, like real top level special forces guys that are amazingly switched on. Like everything they do in their life is purpose driven. And I was having dinner with them one night, and they were talking about the hunting side of things, and they were like, "Do you ever get drones in there? Do you use drones to locate?" And because the mission to them would be, okay, if you're going hunting, the mission is to kill it, right? That's so we're going to do everything in our power to kill it, right? That's how their mind works. Is that, wait a minute, you're doing this because you want to make it hard? I don't understand. Like when we're overseas, we want to do everything we can to kill that terrorist. Now apples and oranges, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's but that, that was kind of their mindset was, I would have 50 trail cameras out there, and I'd have bait piles so I would know exactly where he's going and coming, and then I would fly the drone to see where he's sleeping, and then I would make my move and I'd go in there and execute him. And I'm like, well, that's kind of how hunting is starting to become, and that's not really what it's all about, right? Yeah. We got to back it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and they may do that once or twice, and they probably realize like, oh, okay, what's the point in this?
Right. And where they would end up, they would be with a longbow on the hardest public land, and the hardest place they could possibly go, and they would probably still be successful in hunting doing that. Yeah.
I have less worries about cell cameras and that stuff, but the drone stuff is a little bit, I'm like, man, this is too much for me. I understand I understand and I have the same concerns about cell cameras, just the sheer amount of them on public land. I think private land, you should be able to do whatever you want, but on the public land, I do feel other people's frustrations about having, when you go to a spot and there's 5 cell cameras over every scrape that you walk by. And I don't like that either. But the drone thing, it's like, well, we were at ATA and I was sitting there talking to Johnny Stewart, And he's like, dude, he's like, someone came up to me yesterday and had drone footage of a buck that was down around where Johnny hunts at in Ohio. And he's like, he got to asking the guy, he's like, because he's like, I thought that this was illegal, like, he was doing something illegal, and because it was during deer season and stuff. And Johnny's like, are you allowed to, like, should you be showing me this, buddy? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, before I go hunting, every time I go and drive my drone around my spot before I go out in the woods, and it's like, that's gross to me,
That's crazy. I mean, yeah, I've got a buddy that's a farmer, and he has a real hog problem.
Yeah.
And he's got one of those big expensive drones, and he goes out to his cornfields when they're silting out and they it's sweet, and he flies his drone up above that, and then he walks people in to where these hogs are, and they shoot them.
Oh yeah.
He's like 4 more rows forward to the east.
Yeah.
And the guy walked 4 more rows forward, turn to the east, and the hog is right there.
Sure.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's just watching it real time.
Watching it real time. That's right.
Yeah. Whatever. Killed the hogs. I don't. Yeah.
Sure. But
don't
don't think guys aren't seeing where one's bedded and then getting the wind right and slipping in there and waiting for him to stand up.
I know. And I know people have good intentions with these things sometimes. Whatever. I got a deer drone recovery service, or it's just like it just seems shady to me. Whether it's warranted or not, it doesn't matter. It feels shady. I've heard conservation officers, like, conversations with them, just like, hey, if you got a drone, we're watching you. Like, we're going to probably assume you're doing something, not that they would do anything, but you're got a target on your back, and if you think that's not happening, I guarantee that they are. If it's illegal in your state, I guess if it's not, supposedly in Ohio, it's free game right now. You can just do whatever you want with them.
About that.
So, and that's according to those guys at ATA. I don't know. I didn't look it up, but yeah. I don't know. You think what do you think about as far as like product, the market right now with things? Are we like with mobile gear, what you guys are doing, do you feel like we're saturated right now with companies, or do you feel like we're in a good spot?
I think it's competition at the fullest. Yeah, that's what I think. I think there are a lot of guys doing exactly the same thing in all the space, and then there's pioneers that are really working hard to be inventive and get things that are going to help guys, and we are absolutely working as hard as we can at that. I mean, there are new fabrics, there are new insulations, there's new ways to bond things, there's ways to make things quieter, and that's what you have to do. And I see clothing as an opportunity just to help a guy hide better, be quiet, be lighter, and be able to stay in the stand longer. That's our goal is quiet, light, warmer. That's what we're trying to do with ASIO. And there's lots of competition. I mean, my goodness, we were talking beforehand about Kuiu and some of the other 800-pound gorillas in the industry, and it is a saturated market. The camo apparel business is saturated, and part of that is the barrier of entry is probably smaller than or easier. Well, it was. It's gotten hard again with the tariffs, but at one point the barrier of entry was a lot easier than it used to be. It used to be, you'd have to buy 20 to 40,000 yards of a particular fabric, just for a mill to even take you serious. And now, the mills have become more efficient in making smaller batch runs, but it's still, with the tariffs and there are, quite a bit of challenges. And then that flips it over to the other side where now the marketing has become, how do you get your product out there, when the big players are buying up the Google search words, they're dominating the algorithms with their content, and it's a competitive business.
Yeah. And that's one thing that social media has made it if you want to say worse, I don't know, but whatever. It's just marketing has become such a big part of a business now. You know what I mean? Because there's so much influence on the internet from whatever, everything, ads, influencers. It's tough if you don't, if you can't get them, if you can't afford to do some of that stuff. It's like it's hard to put your foot in the door.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were, that's one of the conversations we were having beforehand, is just the amount that you have to spend on marketing just to even know people know you have a product.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Facebook, Instagram, and probably a lot of guys listening to this have seen ASIO in their social media feeds, and we work really hard at that. But then we'll go like to a trade show in Nebraska, and somebody will come by the booth and be like, "How do you say that? ASIO?
Yeah.
How long you guys been around?" And I'm like, how is what we're doing not working?
Yeah.
How does he? I mean, I get, hey, I've seen your stuff. I've already bought a bunch of so and so, and I don't need any, but I've never heard of you. I mean, that's just it's pretty wild to me. As much as we try and be out there, that still it's still not getting where it should.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's you just haven't you got to break through all them algorithms, Joe.
That's right. And we got some smart boys in here that are starting to really do it.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out all that stuff. Like, I don't completely understand that. Not that I really have to on my side of it, but it's an interesting world, that's for sure. And those guys that are good at it, obviously you got to have a good product. There's no way of getting around that, really, unless you're just inherently wealthy or something. But yeah. What's new with ASIO in 2026? Before I let you go here.
2026, yeah, man. We've got a redesigned backpack. We redesigned our backpack, so we'll be launching that in July. We've got a new bino harness coming. We got a turkey vest coming. Jay Maxwell just left from here at the office, and we were shooting some content for the new turkey vest. We just got them in, so they will be available in the middle of February, middle to end of February. And we're a whitetail bow hunting brand. We don't dabble really in turkey hunting or duck hunting or elk hunting. We're whitetail fixated group, but Jay is a turkey guru, and it's been kind of overwhelming, the amount of turkey hunters that are wearing our camo. Mm-hmm. And that was never the intention. But I'm very happy for it. And Jay said, look, I'm going to design a turkey vest, and I want ASIO gear on it. So we did a collab with him, and he developed the entire vest. We had it made for him, and we made it in ASIO camo in our Raptor and RapX pattern. So we've got that coming. We've got a stealth line jacket and pant coming. It'll be it's a thicker fleece. It won't have a membrane in it. It'll have a tightly woven liner, so it is wind resistant. But it is for the guy that gets on an acorn ridge or something when it's 15, 18 degrees and absolutely dead calm, and he wants to be 100% silent. Like it'll be like wearing a feather. I mean, it is zero noise. So that's our stealth line coming, jacket and pant. So we've got those coming, and then we're already working on 2027 stuff. So, man, it's just it seems like the years go fast now, because you get to January and it's trade show season, it's product development time, and then you got to have prototypes ready for hunting season for the following year to test them and make sure everything's right, or make tweaks and changes to them. So it's constantly going.
Yeah. What do you got going on hunting wise this year?
So believe it or not, man, I have spent probably the last 20 years really traveling to hunt whitetail. I mean, Alberta, Montana, Washington State, Kansas, Texas, Mexico, Ohio. I mean, just traveling, going, getting away from home, still hunting at home some, but having done all that, I tell you, man, these river swamp bucks here in the Southeast and in South Carolina, my home state, are some of the hardest, most cagey, deer to hunt. And I think I'm going to spend a good bit of time at home next year hunting these river swamp bucks. And if I get drawn in Kansas, there is a rather large buck out there I would like to tangle with in November. So as far as I know, he made it through the season. I had some trail camera pictures of him. And so if I do get drawn in Kansas, I may go out there and give him a whirl. But other than that, man, I'm probably going to stay right here at home and chase these river swamp bucks. And, there is one here in particular that I'd really like to hunt hard for a season. I've neglected him, and he's getting older. He's mature, and I'd love to hunt him right here at home, and spend a lot of time with my son and my wife here at home, and so yeah, that's probably my plan.
There you go. Yeah, how many bucks can you kill in South Carolina?
You can kill 5. Our season,
yeah,
our season now. Granted, our 125 makes our state record book, rifle or bow.
Yeah.
And I think we have 4 net Boone and Crockett deer that have ever made the book. It could have changed, but that at not long ago, 4 net Boone and Crockett's 170 net deer was all we had ever put in the book. So we get our rifle season starts August 15th. It goes until January 1st. You can shoot 5 bucks, and you can run them with dogs, and you can feed corn, and you can, it's very, very liberal. We got a lot of deer, but it's tough and it's challenging.
Yeah. What do you think about bait, Joe? Coming from a state where you can bait, and obviously there's a lot of states you can still bait, but
yeah. And I've thought about this a lot. I think each individual has to set their standard and what they want to accomplish, right? I think, have I ever killed a deer over bait? Yes, I have. I've killed them over bait, and when I go to Texas or Mexico, they feed down there. That's part of the culture, and that's how you hunt. That's how you hunt them down there. In Kansas this year, I killed a really big deer, and there was absolutely no bait around whatsoever. And that's a state that you can feed in. I think you learn a lot more about woodsmanship and about yourself as a hunter, and you challenge yourself more if you're not baiting. I think a guy has to set up what he wants to do and how he wants to hunt. I mean, I understand baiting. With the modern world, a lot of guys don't have a lot of time, that are really high stress, high work guys that are just working all the time, and they get, maybe a week a year, or they get 3 or 4 days, or they can go 1 day a weekend, and they want to be successful. They want to put meat in the freezer or whatever it is. And they're going to want to increase their chances as much as they can. So if it's legal and that's what you want to do, I mean, I'm not going to get up on the soapbox here and say it's the worst thing ever to put out bait and hunt a deer over bait. I'm not going there by any stretch of the imagination. So it really is to each his own. And you hear the cliche, if it's legal, knock yourself out. But I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think everybody has to set their own standards, their own expectations, and accomplish the goal that they are after. And if you want to become a really good whitetail deer, one of the worst ways to do that is to run a bunch of bait piles. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I got a place down in Arkansas that I'm going to go hunt sometime, and they bait on it. I mean, it's you can bait down there, and I always just I wonder how I'm going to feel down there, because I don't, not that I wouldn't bait, I just never have gotten the opportunity to. When I go out of state, typically it's on public. You can't bait on hardly any place that's public,
Right.
In Indiana, we've never been able to bait. But then I go down there, I can, they can bait whatever they want to do. And they do on that property. Now, I don't know where we'll be hunting at exactly, but it's just it's something I want to go experience. I've never done it before. I may shoot one and be like, okay, that wasn't for me. But I think if you're realistic about what it is you just did or didn't do,
Yeah, I think the other thing is the owning it, right? Is to being, I guess, the honesty of it.
Right.
That would bug me a little bit. Is a guy that maybe shoots a deer over bait and then talks about how he read the sign and he's coming to a scrape line, blah blah blah, and right outside of camera view is a 4-ton truck of corn laying there. I mean,
Yeah.
that would be a little disheartening, but you know, I think guys have to set up their own standard there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And that's coming from a guy I've never done it, so I don't know. But anyway, all right. We've been on here for over an hour now, Joe. I appreciate you guys and what you've done for this YouTube channel.
No, thank you, buddy. We appreciate everything you do, and man, your channel and your podcast is pretty darn good, bud. So we appreciate everything.
I appreciate it. Yep. And then y'all know if you need any hunting gear, go over to ASIO Gear and get you some.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and we'll take care of everybody, answer any questions we can.
Yep. How's Mission Whitetail? Is it still going strong? You still?
Man, yeah, we just hit our 100th episode.
I saw that with Dawn.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good benchmark for us, and we tried, just like you, to bring as much value to what we love and get people on to do different styles of hunting. You know, Don and Bobby are pretty regulars on our podcast, and they're polar opposites of how they hunt. They both have the same passion for big deer, big mature bucks, and how they do it is different. That's kind of what's so neat about what we do.
Yep, for sure. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and hit the subscribe button before you leave, and we'll talk at you later.